Breaking news. At 04:18 UTC this morning, as most of the world slept, a routine deep space imaging pass by NASA's Near-Earth Object Surveillance mission returned data that should not exist. Moments ago, analysts at the Jet Propulsion Laboratory confirmed that 3I Atlas, an interstellar object previously thought to be on a simple hyperbolic escape trajectory, has exhibited a sequence of movements and emissions that defy every predictive model we have. Today, the impossible just happened. An object that should have passed silently through our solar system is behaving as if it knows exactly where it is and how close it is. This changes everything we thought we knew about interstellar visitors. If you want continuous updates as this story unfolds, this is the moment to hit like, subscribe, and stay with us, because what we're about to show you is still developing. Only minutes after the alert was issued, emergency data channels lit up across 3 continents. Engineers in California, radio astronomers in Chile, and optical teams in Spain were all looking at the same feed. I remember the room going quiet as the first composite image resolved. There was no cheering, no disbelief, just silence, because the data was clean, calibrated, verified, and it was telling us something deeply unsettling. 3I Atlas was no longer behaving like a passive object. To understand why this moment matters, we need to establish who is watching and how closely. NASA's Planetary Defense Network, working in coordination with the European Space Agency, Harvard's Center for Astrophysics, Caltech's Palomar Observatory, and the European Space Network, has been tracking 3I Atlas since its discovery. The James Webb Space Telescope was assigned limited infrared observation windows. Hubble provided optical tracking from low Earth orbit. On the ground, the Atacama Large Millimeter Array in northern Chile monitored radio and sub-millimeter emissions, while ESA's tracking stations in Argentina and Australia measured Doppler shifts with extreme precision. This was not a fringe observation. This was the most comprehensive interagency monitoring effort ever directed at a single interstellar object. The first anomaly appeared 72 hours ago, quietly buried in a routine trajectory update. At the time, 3I Atlas was approximately 0.42 astronomical units from Earth, close in cosmic terms, but still safely beyond the orbit of Venus. Its velocity was measured at 58.7 kilometers per second relative to the Sun, consistent with an interstellar origin. Then, without any visible outgassing, without any detectable mass loss, its velocity increased by 0.9 kilometers per second over a 6-hour window. That alone raised eyebrows. 48 hours before the event, gravitational modeling teams at Caltech reran the numbers. Solar radiation pressure could not account for the acceleration. There was no cometary tail. Spectroscopy showed no increase in volatiles. The object's estimated surface temperature remained stable at approximately 312 Kelvin. No known natural process could produce such a clean, directional acceleration without ejecting mass. 11 hours later, the second anomaly arrived. Optical images from Hubble revealed a subtle but unmistakable change in shape. What had previously appeared as an irregular, tumbling object now displayed a pronounced axial symmetry. Its light curve flattened, rotation slowed from an estimated 7.3-hour period to nearly 11 hours, as if angular momentum was being redistributed internally. At this point, internal alerts were issued. 6 hours before the global announcement, the Atacama Array detected a faint but structured electromagnetic emission in the 1.4 to 1.6 gigahertz range. The signal was weak, just above background noise, but it was coherent, narrow, and repeating at precise 17-second intervals. No natural astrophysical source behaves like that at this scale. I remember staring at the spectral graph as the pulses lined up perfectly, not drifting, not decaying, precise. 3 hours later, ESA's deep space antennas in New Norcia confirmed the signal independently. 2 continents, 2 systems, same result. Then came the imaging. At 04:18 UTC, NASA released the first enhanced composite from a synchronized JWST Hubble observation window. The object was no longer on its predicted path. It had altered course by 0.003 degrees, minuscule, almost invisible, but enough to rule out gravitational perturbation by any known body. More troubling was what happened next. For exactly 96 seconds, 3I Atlas stopped accelerating. It didn't slow down. It didn't drift. It held a constant velocity vector relative to the Sun, as if locked in place along a predetermined line. This was no longer random. It was responding. Within minutes, emergency meetings were convened. Dr. Elias Morano of Harvard's Astrophysics Division argued for an exotic natural explanation, perhaps a previously unknown interaction between interstellar plasma and magnetic fields. Dr. Renata Weiss at ESA countered that no plasma model could produce the observed symmetry or timing. At NASA, internal simulations were already running, feeding terabytes of data into gravitational and electromagnetic models. The results only deepened the mystery. Simulations showed that to achieve the observed acceleration profile, the object would require an internal energy source producing on the order of 10 to the 11th watts, comparable to a small nuclear reactor without any detectable waste heat. Infrared readings from JWST showed no thermal plume, no hot exhaust, nothing. Meanwhile, the radio pulses changed. 21 hours after first detection, the 17-second interval shifted to 19, then 23, then 29 seconds. Prime numbers, one after another. The probability of a natural source producing that pattern by chance was calculated at less than 1 in 10 million. This was the moment when language changed behind closed doors. Internal memos stopped using the word object. They began using system. As the world slept, a second wave of anomalies emerged. One fragment, previously thought to be a loose cloud of debris, vanished entirely from radar and optical sensors. Not faded, not dispersed, gone. At the same moment, magnetometers aboard several Earth-orbiting satellites recorded a brief disturbance, a fluctuation of 0.4 nanotesla, small but global. Air traffic control reported transient radio interference over the North Atlantic. Amateur astronomers noticed unusual auroral activity at latitudes where it should not occur. Even migratory bird tracking networks reported subtle course deviations within hours of the event. Individually, these effects were insignificant. Together, they formed a pattern. In control rooms, conversations dropped to whispers. Data channels were encrypted. Agencies that usually competed for credit began coordinating in silence. World governments were briefed. No statements were issued. I remember thinking, not with fear, but with awe, that we were watching the limits of our assumptions collapse in real time. By the time 3I Atlas reached 0.31 AU from Earth, its behavior stabilized. The pulses ceased. Acceleration returned to baseline. Shape remained symmetrical, as if the event had concluded. But nothing was resolved. Was this a natural interstellar phenomenon governed by physics we do not yet understand? Or was this evidence of technological behavior, controlled, efficient, and deliberate? The scientific community remains divided. Even now, simulations continue to run, hypotheses clash, and reputations hang in the balance. And yet, amid the chaos, there's a strange calm. Because whatever 3I Atlas is, it did not approach us aggressively. It did not broadcast a message we could decipher. It did not disrupt our planet in any meaningful way. It observed, adjusted, and continued on. Maybe we're not witnessing the end, but an invitation, a reminder that the universe is not obligated to conform to our expectations. As I look back at the data feed, frozen at the moment when the pulses aligned and the trajectory shifted, one question remains unanswered. If this was behavior, machine-like or otherwise, what was it reacting to? And what happens the next time it decides to respond? Subscribe to stay with us as this story continues, because 3I Atlas is still out there, and the universe has not finished speaking.